Marcus didn't flinch. He'd been in enough rooms, enough boardrooms, enough courtrooms, enough airport lounges, to know exactly what this was. He reached into the front pocket of his jeans, pulled out his phone, and calmly opened his boarding pass. He held it up without a word. Carla studied it. Her eyes moved back and forth between the screen and his face. Twice. 3 times. "This says seat 2A, she said. "That's correct," Marcus replied. "That's where I'm sitting." She clicked her pen. "Sir, I'm going to need you to step out of the seat for a moment while I verify this." The cabin went quieter than it had been before. That kind of quiet that presses down on everything. Zoe slowly turned away from the window. "Verify what?" Marcus asked, his voice still calm, still measured. "Our system may have flagged a double booking," Carla said. But her eyes told a different story. There was no hesitation in them, no genuine confusion. Just certainty. The certainty of someone who had already made up their mind before she even got to the row. A man in 1C, gray suit, salt and pepper hair, lowered his magazine. He watched, said nothing. "Ma'am," Marcus said, keeping his voice low and even, "my ticket is valid, my seat is confirmed, and I have not done anything to cause a disruption. I'm going to stay in my seat." Carla's jaw tightened. She straightened up. "Sir, I need to ask you again." "Daddy." Zoe's voice was small. She tugged at his sleeve. Her big brown eyes had gone from excited to scared in the span of 30 seconds. "What's happening?" And that right there, was the moment Marcus felt something shift inside him. Not anger, not humiliation, something colder and more familiar. The grief of having to explain something to your child that no child should ever have to understand. He put his hand over hers. "It's okay, baby," he said softly. "Everything is fine." But it wasn't fine, because Carla had already picked up the phone at the front of the cabin and was speaking in a low voice to someone. Within 2 minutes, a second flight attendant appeared. Then a supervisor named Brett, a stocky man in a navy blazer who walked with the confidence of someone used to resolving problems by making them disappear. Brett approached the row with a practiced smile. "Good afternoon, sir. I apologize for the inconvenience. We just need to sort out a small ticketing issue." "There is no ticketing issue," Marcus said. "I bought this seat 6 weeks ago. Business select. Aisle confirmed. You want to see the confirmation email? I have it right here." Brett's smile didn't waver. Of course. But protocol requires." "Protocol," Marcus repeated. Interesting word. The man in 1C finally lowered his magazine completely. He was watching now. So was the woman across the aisle. So was the young couple in 3A and 3B, their faces tight with the particular discomfort of people witnessing something wrong and not knowing what to do about it. Zoe had stopped looking out the window entirely. She was watching her father. Watching the way he held himself. Watching the way he refused to shrink. And somewhere in her 12-year-old mind, she was filing all of it away. "Sir," Brett said, his voice dropping, losing some of its warmth, "if you don't comply, I will have to contact the captain and we will have this aircraft grounded until the matter is." "My name," Marcus said quietly, "is Marcus Webb. I am the founder and CEO of Webb Horizon Medical Group. We operate 17 pediatric clinics across the state of New York. Last year, we provided free healthcare to over 40,000 uninsured children. I am traveling to Los Angeles today to deliver a keynote at the National Healthcare Equity Summit." He paused. "But none of that matters. Because none of that should have to matter. I paid for this seat. My daughter is sitting next to me. And I am not moving." The cabin had gone absolutely silent. Brett blinked. Carla, still standing at the front of the aisle, had gone pale. The man in 1C stood up. He was older than Marcus, maybe mid-60s, wearing a suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. "I've been watching this," he said, loud enough for the whole cabin to hear. "And I want everyone on this aircraft to know that this man has done nothing wrong. Nothing." He looked directly at Brett. "And if you remove him from this flight, I will be calling your corporate headquarters before we even push back from the gate. My name is Gerald Winthrop. I'm on your airline's board of directors." That was the moment everything changed. Brett's face went through 5 different emotions in 3 seconds. He turned to Carla. Carla looked at the floor. "Mr. Webb," Brett said, his voice completely transformed. "I sincerely apologize. Please, please remain in your seat. There is absolutely no issue here." Marcus nodded once, said nothing, but Zoe looked up at her father, and what she saw on his face wasn't triumph. It wasn't anger, it was something quieter, something that looked almost like exhaustion, the kind that comes not from the fight itself, but from having to fight the same fight so many times that you've lost count. She reached over and took his hand, held it with both of hers. He looked down at her, and this time, his smile was real. The flight took off 40 minutes later. Somewhere over Ohio, Carla came to their row. She didn't bring champagne. She didn't bring apologies wrapped in a smile. She just stood there, and she looked at Marcus, and she said, quietly, just to him, "I was wrong. I'm sorry." Marcus looked at her for a long moment. "Thank you," he said. "Teach your children better than you were taught." She nodded. Her eyes were wet. She walked back up the aisle. Zoe watched her go. Then she turned back to her father. "Daddy," she said, "why did she do that?" Marcus was quiet for a moment. Outside the window, 30,000 feet below, America stretched out in every direction. Highways and rivers and farms and cities, all of it connected, all of it complicated. "Some people," he said finally, "see the shirt before they see the man." He squeezed her hand. "That's why you always carry yourself like you know your worth. Even when the room hasn't figured it out yet." Zoe thought about that. She looked back out the window. "I know my worth," she said softly. "I know you do, baby," he said. "I know you do." They landed in Los Angeles 2 hours and 47 minutes later. Marcus delivered his keynote that evening to a standing ovation. The title of his speech, "The First Thing They See, and Why It Can't Be the Last." Carla Deaton requested a transfer to a different route the following week. She also enrolled in a bias awareness training program, not because she was required to. Because something in her had shifted somewhere over Ohio, at 30,000 feet, when a 12-year-old girl held her father's hand and refused to let the world make her small. Gerald Winthrop posted about the incident on LinkedIn that evening. It was shared 400,000 times in 72 hours. Marcus never posted anything. He didn't need to. He had his daughter. He had his work. He had the knowledge that he had held his ground, stayed dignified, and taught his child, without raising his voice, without losing himself, what it meant to be a man who knew exactly who he was. And that was enough. That was more than enough. Some battles aren't fought with fists. They're fought with stillness, with dignity, with a steady voice in a moment designed to make you feel small. Marcus Webb could have erupted, could have given them exactly what they were looking for. Instead, he gave his daughter something far more valuable than rage. He gave her a blueprint. A way to stand, a way to remain. Because when the world tries to tell your child she doesn't belong somewhere, the most powerful thing a parent can do is refuse to move. Not for the cameras, not for the crowd, just quietly, completely, and with his hand over hers, refuse to move.